Chapter 1, Crimson Dawn. The xylos for bass hummed with a low, almost subsonic thrum. Dr. Aris Thorne, his 42 years etched into the lines around his weary eyes, checked the readings on his console. The ice moon stark, white landscape, visible through the panoramic window, offered little comfort. He'd spent the last 6 months studying the Krill, the insectoid race whose existence had only recently been confirmed, their territory a swirling nebula just beyond the xylos system's fringe. His initial reports of their surprisingly advanced biotechnology had been met with skepticism back on Earth, but the data was undeniable. Now, that data was about to become brutally, terrifyingly real. A tremor, subtle at first, rattled the base. Dr. Lena Petrova, Aris's mentor and friend, a woman whose laugh could fill any room, looked up from her work. Seismic activity, she asked, her voice laced with the easy confidence that Aris had always envied. Before Aris could reply, the panoramic window exploded inward, showering the lab with shards of reinforced glass. A deafening roar followed, a wave of searing crimson light engulfing the lab. Outside, the placid ice plains were replaced by a chaotic ballet of bioluminescent insectoid warships, their chitinous bodies gleaming under the strange, alien light. Krill attack, someone yelled, the word swallowed by the cacophony of alarms and the shattering of metal. Chaos reigned. The base's automated defenses, designed for minor disturbances, were utterly overwhelmed. Lasers speared through the walls, leaving trails of smoking holes. The air filled with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid stench of burning polymers. Aris shoved Lena behind a reinforced console, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Get down," he shouted, his voice raw. A Krill warrior, its mandibles clicking menacingly, burst through the shattered wall. Its segmented body, a tapestry of iridescent blues and greens, was armed with a weapon that spat bolts of searing plasma. Lena screamed as a bolt seared through her chest, the light extinguishing the life in her eyes. Aris lunged, tackling the Krill to the ground. In a desperate struggle, he managed to wrestle its weapon away, the alien's chitinous shell surprisingly brittle under the force of his rage. He slammed the weapon against the floor, the sound echoing through the ravaged lab as another wave of crimson light washed over the room. The Krill hissed, a sound of pure, alien hatred, before it dissolved into a cloud of black dust. He looked down at Lena, her body still, cold. Tears blurred his vision, but he couldn't afford to succumb to grief. Survivors were scrambling, regrouping. He had to lead. He had to survive. His voice, choked with emotion but firm, cut through the din. "We fight. We survive." Suddenly, amidst the chaos, a faint, distorted signal crackled to life on a damaged console. It wasn't from Earth, a fact that sent a shiver down his spine. The signal was weak, almost unintelligible, but clearly originated from a Krill vessel. A chilling twist to the horror unfolding around him. The enemy was communicating, and he had a terrible feeling this wasn't a plea for surrender. Chapter 2, Whispers of the Hive Mind. The air hung thick with the smell of ozone and fear. The survivors, a ragtag group of scientists and security personnel, huddled in the wreckage of the main lab. Aris, his face smudged with grime and blood, surveyed the damage. The base was a ruin, its advanced technology reduced to twisted metal and sparking wires. But amidst the devastation, a stubborn ember of defiance flickered. "We need to secure a defensible position," Aris said, his voice hoarse but resolute. His gaze fell upon a partially intact sonic emitter, a device used for geological surveys. An idea, audacious yet desperate, began to form in his mind. "Dr. Chen," he addressed a young, nervous physicist, "can you jury-rig that emitter to a higher frequency? Something beyond its normal range?" Dr. Chen, his face pale but determined, nodded. "I can try. But it's a long shot. The Krill's bioweapons are far beyond anything we've encountered." The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. They salvaged components, rerouted power, and fought against the encroaching despair. Chen, working with feverish intensity, managed to modify the emitter, amplifying its sonic output significantly. Tests revealed a startling result: the high-frequency pulses seemed to disrupt the KRYLL's chitinous armor, creating temporary weaknesses. Meanwhile, another member of the team, Sergeant Miller, a grizzled veteran of countless skirmishes on Earth, was using salvaged materials to devise crude defensive barriers. His gruff exterior hid a strategic mind, and he quickly identified weak points in the remaining structure, preparing for a last stand. "It's not much," Miller said, gesturing at the makeshift fortifications, "but it'll buy us some time." Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught Aris's eye. A damaged KRYLL scout, its body riddled with laser burns, was limping through the debris field. It was separated from the main force, disoriented and vulnerable. A tense silence settled over the group. Fear warred with a burgeoning sense of hope. This was their chance to study their enemy, to understand their weaknesses. Aris made a decision, one born of both desperation and a flicker of unorthodox hope. "We capture it," he declared. "Alive." The capture was brutal but swift. The KRYLL, surprisingly intelligent for an insectoid, displayed a potent mixture of fear and aggression. They managed to subdue it, securing it in a makeshift containment cell. As they began to study its communication patterns, something unexpected emerged. Fragmented phrases, repeating cycles of bioluminescent signals, hints of a deeper fear, a fear beyond their immediate territorial concerns. A whisper of a hive mind, haunted by something ancient and powerful, buried deep within the heart of Xylos 4. The whispers of the KRYLL hive mind revealed something far larger, something that threatened both them and humanity. The fight for survival had just taken a drastically unexpected turn. Chapter 3: The Obsidian Heart. The captured KRYLL scout, now dubbed Xyla by Aris after a painstaking process of deciphering its bioluminescent markings, proved to be unexpectedly cooperative, driven by a primal fear that transcended the usual aggression of its kind. Through a combination of painstaking observation, rudimentary sign language, and Aris's surprisingly intuitive grasp of KRYLL biocommunication, a terrifying truth began to emerge. Aris worked late into the night, decoding the fragmented communications intercepted from the KRYLL fleet. The patterns weren't just about territorial aggression, they were laced with a deeper, more primal fear. Repeating sequences of bioluminescent pulses pointed towards a singular, catastrophic event, an energy drain, a pulsating void of power that threatened the very fabric of the planet. It was something they called, in their clipped, almost ritualistic communication, the Obsidian Heart. "It's beneath the surface," Aris translated, his voice barely a whisper, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. The others gathered around, their faces reflecting a mixture of horror and disbelief. "Beneath Xylos 4?" Dr. Chen asked, his voice trembling. "Yes," Aris confirmed, pointing to a section of the decoded communication. The KRYLL's attack, it wasn't just conquest. They were trying to seal something away, something powerful, something terrifying. He looked at Xyla, the injured scout, its multifaceted eyes reflecting the same ancient fear. "But why tell us?" Sergeant Miller asked, his voice gruff but betraying a hint of cautious hope. "Why reveal this Obsidian Heart?" Aris wasn't sure. Perhaps it was a desperate attempt at survival, a last-ditch effort to communicate before their own extinction. Or perhaps, deep within the hive mind structure, a flicker of individual consciousness existed, one that was capable of seeing beyond the blind instinct of the swarm. Xyla, using a combination of gestures and bioluminescent patterns, produced a crude map of Xylos 4's subsurface, highlighting a specific location, a cavern system deep beneath the ice, where the Obsidian Heart was supposedly located. Aris realized that the KRYLL attack wasn't a simple conquest, it was a desperate attempt to seal away something far more terrifying, a threat that transcended their interspecies conflict. Then, the unexpected happened. A distinct shift in Xyla's bioluminescence. It was communicating something different, something beyond the fear, something more strategic. Aris felt a sudden prickling of excitement. It seemed there were factions within the KRYLL's hive mind. A rebellious element, perhaps. A section that was against the complete sealing of the Obsidian Heart. This faction, Aris realized, was somehow aware that they, and humanity, shared a common enemy. This discovery drastically altered their situation. It wasn't simply a fight for survival against the Kryll, it was a race against a far older, more powerful threat buried deep within the icy heart of Xylos 4. The survival of both species might depend on the unlikely alliance that was about to form. Their enemy, they realized, was not just the Kryll. It was something far, far older. The Obsidian Heart was not just a threat, it was a weapon that could potentially be used against both of them, and that realization sent a shiver down their spines. Chapter 4: A Desperate Gamble. The battered remnants of the Xylos 4 base served as a staging ground for an audacious plan, one born of desperation and the unlikely alliance forged with Xylar. Aris, his face etched with exhaustion but his eyes burning with a fierce determination, laid out the strategy. Their goal, to create a diversion, using the modified sonic emitter and their understanding of Kryll behavior, to draw the main Kryll forces away from the Obsidian Heart's location while a smaller team, led by Aris himself, infiltrated the Kryll hive to contact the rebellious faction. The sonic emitter will disrupt their Kai-Tin, Aris explained, gesturing to the crudely repaired device. It won't kill them, but it will create enough chaos to give us a window. Sergeant Miller, ever the pragmatist, raised an eyebrow. And how do we know this so-called rebel faction will even cooperate? We don't, Aris admitted, his voice raw with honesty. But it's our only chance. Failure means extinction for both of us. The diversion team, armed with the modified sonic emitters and whatever salvaged weaponry they could find, set up positions around the perimeter of the damaged base. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but the fear of the Obsidian Heart loomed larger than the threat of the Kryll. Meanwhile, Aris, along with Dr. Chen, providing technical support, and Xylar, acting as a guide and translator, prepared for infiltration. Xylar's bioluminescent patterns, subtly altered by Chen, would help them blend into the Kryll hive, at least temporarily. The assault began with a cacophony of high-frequency sonic blasts, the sound ripping through the icy landscape. The Kryll responded with a furious counterattack, their bioweapons unleashing a hail of plasma fire. The diversion team, outnumbered and outgunned, fought with the desperation of cornered animals. Aris watched from a distance, his heart pounding, as explosions rocked the base, each blast a testament to their courage and sacrifice. The diversion worked. The Kryll's attention was drawn away from the underground entrance to the Obsidian Heart's cavern. Aris, Chen, and Xylar, moving with stealth and precision, made their way through the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the ice. The air was thick with the Kryll pheromones, a nauseating cocktail of fear and aggression. The path was fraught with peril, but Xylar's familiarity with the Kryll hive's architecture proved invaluable. Finally, they reached their destination, the matriarch's chamber. The matriarch was not what they had expected. She was ancient, her chitinous body shimmering with an unnatural light, her multifaceted eyes reflecting an intelligence that transcended the hive mind's collective consciousness. She was far more than just an insect, she was a sentient being burdened by an ancient curse. The gamble had paid off, but the true test was yet to come. The negotiations would be as perilous as the journey to her chamber. Chapter 5: Beneath the Ice. The matriarch's chamber was a cavern of immense proportions, carved from the ice itself. Bioluminescent fungi cast an ethereal glow on the smooth, icy walls, illuminating the Kryll queen's massive form. She was unlike any Kryll Aris had ever seen, larger, more ancient, her chitin shimmering with an otherworldly luminescence. Her multifaceted eyes held an intelligence that transcended the instinctual nature of the hive mind. Aris, Chen, and Xylar stood before her, the air thick with unspoken tension. Xylar, using a complex series of bioluminescent signals, relayed Aris's message, a plea for cooperation, a desperate attempt to forge an alliance against a common enemy, the Obsidian Heart. The matriarch's response was not immediate. She remained motionless for what felt like an eternity, her immense body radiating a sense of ancient wisdom and weary sorrow. Then, slowly, almost reluctantly, she began to communicate, her voice a series of low, resonant clicks and hisses that Xylar translated for Aris. "The Obsidian Heart, it consumes," she said, her voice carrying an undercurrent of despair. "It feeds on energy, on life itself. It was not always so. It was a weapon, a source of unimaginable power, but now, it is a curse. Aris felt a chill run down his spine. The KRYLL's fear was not unfounded. This was not merely a geological anomaly, it was a sentient entity, a malevolent force slowly draining the life from Xylos 4. "We must stop it," Aris said, his voice filled with grim determination. "Together." The matriarch remained silent for a moment, her multifaceted eyes studying Aris with a mixture of suspicion and cautious hope. Then, she spoke again, her words carrying the weight of millennia. "There is a way. A risky way. Our technology, it can create a containment field, a cage of immense power. But the energy required, it is immense." Aris's heart pounded in his chest. The containment field required a sacrifice, an immense amount of energy, potentially draining the entire Xylos 4 base. It was a desperate gamble, a final, all-or-nothing bet on survival. "We'll do it," Aris said, his voice firm despite the tremor in his hands. "We'll find a way." The matriarch nodded, a slow, deliberate movement. The alliance was forged not in friendship or trust, but in the shared desperation of two species facing oblivion. They would use their combined scientific knowledge and technology to create a containment field powerful enough to seal the Obsidian heart away forever. The coming battle wouldn't be fought with weapons, it would be waged with technology, with courage, and with the hope that, even in the face of unimaginable horror, survival was still possible. The final act was a race against time and an agonizing decision: what price would they pay for the survival of both species? Chapter 6: The Obsidian Shroud. The cavern pulsed with energy, the air thick with the hum of 1,000 KRYLL bioengines working in concert. Human and KRYLL engineers, united by a common purpose, toiled side by side, their differences momentarily overshadowed by the looming threat of the Obsidian heart. Aris, his face streaked with grime and exhaustion, oversaw the final stages of the containment field's construction. The device was a marvel of bioengineered technology, a fusion of KRYLL organic mechanics and human energy manipulation, a testament to their unlikely alliance. Dr. Chen, his eyes bloodshot but alight with a fierce intensity, monitored the energy readings. "It's drawing power faster than we anticipated," he said, his voice strained. "The containment field requires immense energy to stabilize." Sergeant Miller, his face grim, stood guard, his weapon trained on the cavern entrance. The KRYLL, usually wary and aggressive, worked with a surprising level of cooperation, their hive mind temporarily overriding the instinctual territorialism. Xylar, acting as the bridge between the two species, ensured smooth communication and collaboration. The Obsidian heart, deep beneath the ice, pulsed with a malevolent energy, its malevolent presence palpable. The containment field, once activated, would draw that energy into a carefully constructed cage, sealing it away forever. But the cost was immense. "We're almost ready," Aris announced, his voice hoarse but filled with a steely determination. He looked at Xylar, then at the KRYLL engineers, their multifaceted eyes reflecting a mixture of anxiety and hope. "For both our worlds." As the final energy conduits were connected, a wave of immense power surged through the cavern. The ground trembled, the bioluminescent fungi flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows on the assembled engineers. Chen's voice cut through the din. "It's working. The containment field is stabilizing." But the energy drain was catastrophic. The entire base, already ravaged by war, shuddered under the strain. The power systems flickered and died, plunging the cavern into darkness. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone, the sound of cracking ice echoing through the subterranean space. In the ensuing darkness, a single, blinding flash of light erupted from the Obsidian heart's location, followed by an earth-shattering roar. When the light subsided, a profound silence descended. The energy drain ceased. The cost had been steep. The Xylos 4 base was completely destroyed. The survivors were few, scattered amongst the wreckage. But they had succeeded. The Obsidian heart was sealed, its malevolent energy contained within an impenetrable shroud. Aris, Chen, Miller, and Xylar stood amidst the ruins, gazing at each other. The silence was broken only by the drip of melting ice. They had not just saved their own species, but they had inadvertently saved the KRYLL as well. An unlikely alliance forged in the face of death had secured a future for both. As they looked at the sealed Obsidian heart, they understood that their shared future would be one of uneasy cooperation, of understanding, and of survival. The Obsidian shroud, a symbol of their combined triumph, lay between them and oblivion. A new era had begun.